Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Adebola Adedugba. The top stories at this hour. Court restrains Sokoto government from sacking 2 district heads. Police fire tear gas at tax hike protesters in Kenya. Democratic Alliance threatens to leave South Africa's government of national unity. And details shortly. Let's begin by telling you that the Senate and House of Representatives have passed a bill to extend the implementation of the 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Bill until December 31st, 2024. Now, this move follows an emergency plenary session presided by Senate President Godswill Akpabio. The bill, sponsored by Senator Okpeyemi Bamidele, sailed through all 3 stages of passage in a single day, with lawmakers overwhelmingly supporting the extension. President Tinubu had requested the extension to allow for full implementation of the law. With this development, the implementation of the 2023 supplementary budget will now run concurrently with the 2024 budget, which stands at 28.78 trillion naira.
And since it's the executive that oversees the pulse of the nation, if the reason that extending the lifespan of the budget is necessary to execute projects in order to ensure that no projects are abandoned, to leave out the specter of abandoned projects in Nigeria, Mr. President, to all intents and purposes, I think we should resolve to allow this bill to pass appropriately.
Chairman of Appropriation, the Chairman of Finance should be able to make sure that before December, that this particular inputs are actually implemented. And if for any reason the government could not do that, they should report back to the National Assembly for discussion. It is important that we do that. Even as we are doing that, we do not know of what percentage has the supplementary budget been implemented. We need to know the percentage. We need to know how many remaining to be able to have a 100% implementation.
To, among other things, extend the implementation period to the 31st day of December 2024. The bills were read for the first time today, Thursday, 27 June 2024. Distinguished colleagues, you will recall that on Wednesday, 20th March 2024, these acts were amended to allow for exhaustive implementation of capital projects under the acts to the 30th day of June 2024. The extension will expire on Sunday, 30th June 2024, and many projects are yet to be completed.
What we are extending is 2023 supplementary budget and the 2023 budget, so that every item in that budget is as important as the other. You cannot ask to select one road in Abuja and leave the one in Nyanya. So they are the same period.
For an act to amend the 2023 Appropriation Act in order to extend the implementation year from 30th June 2024 to December 31st, 2024, and for related matters 2024. Third reading taken and passed.
In the meantime, the Senate has denied approving the purchase of a new presidential jet for President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima, as speculated. There were reports that President Tinubu was seeking the National Assembly's approval of funds for the purchase of a new presidential jet. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, during Thursday's emergency plenary session, clarified that there is a presence of a 5th columnist doing everything possible to destabilize the parliament.
run the Senate by answering people in the social media. Because the social media is garbage in, garbage out. I was in Zanzibar attending to inter-parliamentary union meetings when that information went out that the Senate President has said he will approve a brand new plan for the President, irrespective of whether there is suffering or no suffering. There was never a time such a statement came from me, because I've never had any correspondence to approve a plan or not to approve a plan. And I did not want to answer, but they went further to generate it, and then they went wrong as if I was saying that I did not care about the Nigerian people, I did not do this. We care about the President, we care about the Nigerian people. We will approve things that will benefit the Nigerian people. We will approve things that will improve the living standard of the people. At the same time, we will also take cognizance of the duties of Mr. President. If his vehicle is bad, we will repair the vehicle. If his plane is bad, we will approve money for the repair of the plane. So that is not an issue. There is nothing before us.
Vice President Kashim Shettima presided over the 142nd National Economic Council meeting at the State House in Abuja. Some members of President Bola Tinubu's economic team are also attending the meeting. On Wednesday, the President's Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, said Tinubu will discuss the new national minimum wage with state governors at the meeting. Gbajabiamila disclosed this when he spoke in Kano State while leading a high-powered delegation to commiserate with Shettima over the demise of his mother-in-law. The meeting comes days after the Federal Executive Council on Tuesday stepped down the report of the tripartite committee on new national minimum wage, citing the need for President Bola Tinubu to further consult with other stakeholders on the matter. And now to judicial matters. The Sokoto State High Court has issued an order restraining Governor Hamid Aliyu from sacking 2 of the 15 district heads his government has earlier removed from their seat. The order was sought separately by Buhari Dahiru Tambuwal and Abubakar Kasim, the district heads of Tambuwal and Kebe, who are among the rulers removed by the Sokoto State government on the allegation of insubordination and aiding insecurity in the state. The presiding judge, Justice Kabiru Ibrahim Hamed, however, ordered the governor of Sokoto State, his attorney general, and the Sokoto Sultanate Council to revert to status quo pending determination of the suit filed before him by the complainants, who were presented by Professor Ibrahim Abdullahi. And there was mild drama at the Federal High Court in Abuja as a senior advocate of Nigeria, Adebola Adedugba, representing the embattled governor of Kogi State, has applied to the court to withdraw his appearance for the former governor. And this is coming as the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, accusing Bello of embezzling about 80.2 billion naira, sought the permission of the court to dock Bello's legal representatives for failing to produce their clients before Justice Emeka Nwete to take his plea. Bello is facing a 19-count charge bordering on his alleged complicity in money laundering, breach of trust, and misappropriation of public funds.
The court has on its record undertakings made by the different 2 senior advocates promising to produce him in court. It was as a result of that promise that the state stepped down the issue of his arrest. Now, today in court, they have not produced him. He's not in court. We have now invoked the disciplinary powers of the court because a promise, an undertaking to the court, is akin, a breach of a promise or undertaking to the court is akin to a breach of an injunction. We have now asked the court to proceed against the 2 senior advocates and have them docked for contemptuous conduct. We've invited the court to the different provisions of the rules. As a result of that, one of the senior advocates in order to avoid it, has asked to withdraw from the case. But we've addressed the court on that, and the court has now directed that ruling will be delivered on the 17th of July.
We now move to security matters. Nigeria's defense headquarters says that thousands of terrorists and criminal elements have been arrested and detained between April to June this year. Director of Defense Media Operation, Major General Adebola, during a fortnightly briefing with pressmen in Abuja, says the troops also rescued almost 2,000 kidnapped victims, recovering a large cache of arms and ammunition from terrorists and criminal elements. He gave the updates on the figures.
Into the 2,245 terrorists, arrested 3,682 suspects and other criminal elements. Troops also rescued 1,993 kidnapped hostages, most of whom are back with their families now, and we recovered 2,783 weapons with 64,547 assorted ammunition during the second quarter of 2024.
You're watching News Central now. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. The Nigerian Senate Committee on Privatization and Commercialization has urged Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara to maintain peace in the state despite the political crisis. The committee, led by Senator Orji Kalu, made a call during a visit to the government house in Port Harcourt. The lawmakers commended the governor for his efforts and urged him to continue exercising restraint. Kalu promised to reach out to President Tinubu and former Governor Nyesom Wike to foster peace. The governor assured the committee of his commitment to sustaining peace and delivering his electoral promises. He described the protests as distractions and urged the lawmakers to address the root cause of the problem. The committee's visit comes amid a political crisis in the state following the expiration of the tenure of the local government's chairman. And to unpack this, I am joined by Chairman All Progressives Congress Rivers State, Honorable Tony Okocha. Good evening. Glad to have you join me.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
I mean, now we've seen different events play out in Rivers State just this week alone. Yesterday, the governor mentioned an attempt to detonate a dynamite at a hotel, Hotel Presidential. What's your impression of all these issues?
Well, if you want me to respond in respect to the attempt to detonate some devices yesterday in the state, well, my position is just sacrosanct. I do not support evil. I do not support violence. And I condemn it. It's condemnable, and I condemn in absolute terms. I don't know who is mentioning that, but maybe in course of this engagement, we'll be opening up quite a whole lot.
Now, Senator Orji Kalu and also other stakeholders have asked the governor to maintain peace. What are your thoughts on this clarion call for peace?
Well, reasonably so. Reasonably so. What will any right-thinking person, advise the governor to do or not to do? The best a reasonable person will advise the governor is to see how he can maintain the peace in the state. Because without peace, he cannot also govern. And the way it is in the state, I have said that it has become rivers of crisis every other day. And so when the visiting team of the Senate advises or gives the counsel that the governor should, as much as possible, try to maintain the peace, they wish him well. They wish him well. He cannot govern under an anarchist situation. That is truth. That is the truth. And that is what is going on right now. That is a point where the governor will tell you that out of 1 year that we know we elected him, he had just spent 4 months in office. And you'll be wondering what is the reason. And what happened to the other 8 months? Crisis, political crisis that he self-inflicted. Okay, we have said that many times, and nobody has been able to controvert us. And let me also say that from between the time he became governor and now, one can very well say that they won the attempt at the last attempt, according to what they have said. I haven't tried to dig deep into what it is. But how about the one that was detonated at the State House of Assembly, where he visited?
Okay.
Have you said anything about that one?
There's something quite interesting you touched on. You said political crisis he himself inflicted. What do you mean by that?
Yes, because the issues in this, the issues were matters that as a governor, about as an administrator, not even having the toga of governor, he could just rein in. But he is at the center, he's at the epicenter of the trouble. That's why I said that it is self-inflicted. If you are governor of a state, and assuming at all, you begin to see the trickling in of insecurity in your state, the trickling in of a crisis in your state. So what will you do? You will better go to see how you make peace. Exactly what Adedugba had told him. Exactly what the governor of Bayelsa State also told him. Exactly what Spiff, former Governor Spiff, when he led the delegation here, also offered him freely. Okay, but because he is the major player in the fray, he doesn't care. That's the position.
Honorable Okocha, I mean, what would you say to people pointing fingers at the former governor of the state, Nyesom Wike, being the one responsible for the crisis in Rivers State, because he once made a statement that the Governor Siminalayi Fubara, is truncating the structure he has set up in the state. How do you react to that?
See, Governor Fubara is Wike's investment in politics. You want to ask me what I mean?
Go ahead, I'm listening to you.
Okay, good. Okay. I said he is Wike's investment in politics. And again, if Wike says, oh, he's dismantling my structure and doing all of those my structure, then he has every right to say so. Because he was Wike's, would I call it boy? I don't like to use that word. But he's Wike's protege. So a master will know when his protege is destroying his house.
Now, talking about...
So it's not strange.
I mean, you said something, very vital, if I must say, that Governor Siminalayi Fubara is Governor Wike's boy in politics, so to speak. Investments, like you rightly, quoted. But then, yes, shouldn't a sitting governor have the independence to rule or govern the affairs of a state he is presiding on?
Who is taking his independence? He has immunity. Former Governor Wike, as we speak now, does not have immunity.
So who is taking his immunity? Who is taking his independence? By independence, I mean by independence, just to clarify, I mean the right to rule and govern the affairs of the state without external stifling.
We are saying the same thing. We say it's never in dispute. When a man says you are dismantling my structure, it has nothing to do with you running the government. Okay? We are politicians, and every politician builds up a structure around him. It is a structure that you grow with. It is a structure that you expand. So when there is somebody in the house who is a member of that structure, who is part of your investment, that come into that structure and attempt to dismember it, attempt to decimate it, you will certainly not agree. You will cry out, because when that structure is dismantled, then it means that you are empty politically. You are not a politician.
Well, I was going to,
right?
we're pressed for time. I was going to ask you, does that then justify the crisis we're having in Rivers State time and again? But then we're out of time. But thank you so much for your insight on the news. Honorable Tony Okocha, Chairman, All Progressives Congress for Rivers State. Many thanks indeed for your insights.
Thank you so much. It's also brief.
Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation has pledged the commitment of the current government to allow public relations professionals practice their profession without any hindrance. The minister made this known in the nation's capital, Abuja, as he received officials of the African Public Relations Association and the Global Alliance for Public Relations. He urged public relations professionals to use their skills to forge bonds of unity, understanding, and shared prosperity for the continent. Our correspondent, Amadine Uyi, tells us more.
Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation receiving professionals from the African Public Relations Association and the Global Alliance for Public Relations. The minister urged the team to use their skills as public relations experts in advancing the cause for unity and peace in the country.
Important that we work together, not just to advance the cause of public relations on the continent, but to also ensure that we use public relations to forge unity on the continent, to forge understanding and the shared prosperity that all of us aspire, so that not just Nigerians, not just Africans, the world will be bound by humanity. And I think public relations can be in the lead for that.
The visiting team were commending the minister for his support for public relations professionals in the country, say an effective partnership will benefit the nation immensely.
We are simply saying that public relations is a very strategic tool in creating values that drive the economy. If the economy is not doing well, we should ask public relations practitioners to come in, because reputation and trust remain essential elements.
Changes have to be done from the top down, and I applaud the Minister for his commitment to NIPR and to the profession.
It's a success story for us because in the continent of Africa, in 1963, Nigeria started the NIPR. And so looking at it and looking at the years, we want to learn how can we transform and bring these lessons to other countries within Africa.
He gave assurances that the current administration will continue to promote press freedom and allow public relations experts practice their profession without hindrance.
I assure you that this ministry, this government, this administration of President Adebola and Tinubu will continue to provide an enabling environment for everybody within the communication industry, prepare practice itself to thrive in this country.
The minister further urged them to promote the ideals of democracy and good governance. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
The United Nations Children's Fund said an estimated 1.5 million children are out of school in Borno, Adamawa and Yobe State in Nigeria's northeast. The UN agency made this known during the launch of Education and Learning for Children in Emergencies in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Education and Borno, Adamawa, Yobe State towards tackling the menace. Our correspondent, Umaru Kirawa, tells us more.
It is school hours and these children are playing while these other ones are roaming the street searching for means of survival. The Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast Nigeria contributed hugely to this retrogressive situation. Stakeholders here are gathered to discuss best ways to tackle the alarming rate of the out-of-school children.
This is to introduce a new project that is related to the GPE accelerated funding that is going to be implemented in 3 states, Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa. We also been helping the Ministries of Education and the states to implement programs that are going to help the children to come back to a school, out-of-school children to come back to school, but also to help them to, let's say, help them to address delays that they may have in the learning process. So we will continue doing that. So UNICEF is committed to do that.
System strengthening and improving access through cash assistance to households and schools are some of the recommendations put forth as a solution.
There's no child without a school. What matters most is what sort of school have you provided. A child at a particular stage must learn something. If you don't put in place deliberate policies, deliberate action to bring him into a conventional school system, he will be on the school of the street, and the street will teach him its own lesson. The campaign is not just about the children alone, but it's also about the parents. Sometimes you meet a situation where parents will adduce economic reason for not sending those children to schools.
3 years ago, the statistic was 1.3, but I can tell you now that it's around 700 to 800,000 out of school in Borno State. So you can see that a large percentage of these children are mobbed from the streets.
Education in Yobe is improving. Sincerely speaking, there is a serious improvement in terms of enrollment, retention, up to graduation.
Education priorities of the government in each state of Borno, Adamawa and Yobe were discussed to harness effective implementation of the project. The stakeholders are mapping out a workable document that will reduce out-of-school children before the numbers get out of hand. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Coming up, police fired tear gas at tax hike protesters in Nairobi. We'll bring you details after this break. Thank you for staying tuned. The news continues in East Africa, where Kenyan police fired tear gas at small groups of demonstrators in Nairobi on Thursday, just a day after the government agreed to scrap contentious tax hikes following deadly protest. Dozens of protesters reportedly made their way to Nairobi's central business district, where police in anti-riot gear had blocked access along roads leading to State House, President William Ruto's office, and Parliament. Earlier, political analyst Nancy Omolo spoke to us on this development.
Many people are not sure that the youth, they call themselves Generation Z. These are the young people who are born between 1995 and 2010. So we're not sure they're going to turn up on the street, but I came across one of the letters that they wrote, and they were defiant despite the president having said that he's withdrawn the bill and is going back to the parliament because they think that their issues are not really being well addressed. They're not being addressed in time because they've already lost some of their colleagues. So far, the Law Society of Kenya yesterday gave an update that at least 22 people have been killed by the police, and over 200 are in the hospital. So this already angered the youth that, this is coming a bit too late in the day.
In Southern Africa, Democratic Alliance says it might have to cancel the GNU deal with ANC following failure to resolve the cabinet deal, as President Ramaphosa has failed to abide by the initial offer for cabinet position he made to the party. Ramaphosa on Wednesday night allegedly altered the terms of the offer, replacing an offer for the Minister of the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition with the Minister of the Department of Tourism, with the country waiting in anticipation for Ramaphosa to announce the new cabinet. The latest development could delay the announcement. In the meantime, Democratic Alliance has filed papers with the electoral courts to oppose the Mkoto Wisizwe party's request to have the 2024 national election results declared invalid. The DA says the MK party has not provided evidence to support their claims that elections were rigged and that the MK party's bid aims to send the wrong messages about the elections and compromise the credibility of the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa. Meanwhile, the IEC has also submitted an affidavit asking the court to dismiss MK's application. A human rights activist, Biram Abeid, and the president of the Islamist party, Tawassul Hamadi Ul Sidi Al Mukhtar, are two of the prominent opposition candidates and rivals to the incumbent Mohamed Ghazouani in Mauritania's presidential election on June 29. Though Ghazouani is the favorite to win, the likes of Abeid are still campaigning hard. Ghazouani is favored to win a second term as the head of the country of 4.5 million that sits at a strategic spot between North and Sub-Saharan Africa.
Moi, je n'ai jamais occupé des fonctions officielles, des fonctions dans l'État. Je n'ai que ma vision de la Mauritanie. La justice sociale, l'état de droit, la bonne santé économique, le développement du pays. Et c'est avec ce parcours que je suis parti de cellule de prison en cellule de prison, la diabolisation. Je me suis battu. J'ai un parcours. J'ai une légitimité. D'abord, on va réconcilier les Mauritaniens. Il y a des passifs lourds entre les Mauritaniens. On va mettre fin à l'esclavage. On va mettre fin à toutes sortes de discriminations entre Mauritaniens. On va penser les plaies béantes dont souffrent beaucoup de Mauritaniens à cause des divisions qui sont créées par ces gens-là. On va, surtout, on va mettre fin à la corruption. On va mettre fin à la gabegie.
La vie est chère, les populations ne peuvent plus vivre, ils survivent. Si nous regardons les questions de cohabitation communautaire, il y a un sérieux problème. Si nous regardons au niveau des recrutements, si nous regardons au niveau de l'armée, nous voyons que vraiment qu'il y a une régression, une forte régression des acquis. Donc si nous regardons même sur le plan logistique et infrastructure, nous voyons que le pays va mal. Donc chaque jour on a des accidents. Donc on peut dire qu'il y a un bilan positif pour ce gouvernement durant ces 5 ans. Donc nous pensons que 5 autres années, c'est vraiment la mort pour la Mauritanie.
Bolivian Minister of Government Eduardo del Castillo has presented accusations against General Juan José Zuniga, who he says wanted to take command of Bolivia and become Captain General of the Armed Forces. The now-dismissed Army Chief Zuniga was arrested after troops and tanks entered Plaza Morillo, a historic square where the presidency and Congress are located.
Los efectivos del orden que puedan presentar al primer delincuente aprendido, al señor Juan José Zúñiga Macías, con el pueblo boliviano y con la democracia en nuestro país. Vamos a batallar, vamos a litigar, no serán procesos fáciles, pero aprendida es el señor vicealmirante Juan Arnés Salvador, comandante general o excomandante general de la Fuerza Armada Boliviana. Encontraban al interior de un vehículo blindado, el cual impactó en contra de las puertas de la Casa de la Democracia en nuestro país, en contra del Palacio Quemado, y ellos buscaban derrocar un gobierno democráticamente electo. El golpe de Estado no ha logrado consumarse gracias al compromiso, gracias a la memoria fresca que tiene el pueblo boliviano, que de manera automática se ha autoconvocado para salir a defender a un gobierno democráticamente electo. El golpe de Estado nacional. Y lo que estaba buscando lamentablemente el señor Zúñiga era tomar el mando de nuestro país, convertirse en el capitán general de las Fuerzas Armadas.
The UK 2024 general election is poised to be a pivotal moment in British politics, with the current Conservative government led by Rishi Sunak looking set to be wiped out by Keir Starmer's Labour Party. This election will not only determine the leadership, but also strategic direction of the nation in a post-Brexit landscape. Our correspondent internationally, Afia Hagen, has been taking a look at key issues to dominate the discourse.
The much-anticipated general election in the UK is only 1 week away.
This electoral milestone is more than just a political event. It's a decisive moment that could reshape the country's future, with manifestos touching on everything from the economy and healthcare to climate change and immigration. With party leaders like Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer rallying their forces and pivotal issues such as Brexit and the cost of living crisis at the forefront, the stakes have never been higher. The UK general election of 2024 places significant emphasis on the economy and cost of living, which have become pressing concerns for voters. Economic recovery post-pandemic has been sluggish, with faltering public services and a cost of living crisis that sees millions struggling. But journalist and broadcaster Daisy McAndrew explains that Labour and the Conservatives don't differ much on how to address this issue.
Clearly, the cost of living crisis is one of, if not the biggest issue. It's the thing that most voters will say affects their lives and a reason why they're voting for Labour. Interestingly, though, if you really analyse the economic policies of the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, there is very little to choose between them. Neither of them are addressing the fact that we have huge debts and that those debts are really unsustainable, that we have to change something after the election, whether that's tax rises or whether that's cutting the cost of public services. But that's something you won't hear either of the parties addressing.
Healthcare remains a critical issue, with the National Health Service facing immense pressure, especially since the pandemic. The standard of healthcare affects the whole country, but because of devolved governments across the UK, political commentator Angela Haggerty says healthcare may be dealt with differently up and down the country.
What the public are hoping for from Labour is that they can improve the NHS, improve the service enough that we don't have to be thinking about private healthcare. However, one of the difficult things for Labour in this election, I would guess, is that the NHS is devolved in some parts of the UK. So they don't actually, their policy in Westminster won't control what happens in the NHS in all parts of the UK. So up here in Scotland, for example, Labour could do an amazing job on repairing the NHS in England. It could be phenomenal, but it wouldn't affect us here in Scotland because that's devolved to the Scottish government. So this is one of the complicating factors of this election. We have Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland and England, and each of these regions hold different powers, things that they're in control of, and not all of them will be affected by the policies in this election.
Immigration policy is a hugely divisive topic in this election. The Conservative Party supports stringent measures, including a controversial plan to process some asylum seekers in Rwanda, aiming to deter illegal crossings. Political analyst Nathaniel Ogniye outlines the different approach that a Labour government could take to tackling this hot-button issue.
Labour have pledged to reverse the Brexit legislation. They've pledged to reverse the act that allows the government to send people to Rwanda. Equally, they have pledged a new border command, which largely consists of existing officers. So, for instance, when we look elsewhere in their pledges, for instance, with dentists, they pledge to recruit more of them. When it comes to the Border Security Command, Labour haven't actually pledged to recruit any more officers. They just pledged to put them into sort of a separate new unit and sort of call it by a slightly different name.
It's clear that the upcoming election embodies a pivotal moment for the nation, with the potential to steer its path towards recovery, resilience and sustainability. As we stand on the cusp of a decisive juncture in UK politics, the significance of the choices to be made cannot be underestimated. Given the profound implications for the economy, public services and immigration, the outcome of this election holds the promise of shaping the United Kingdom's trajectory for years to come. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagan.
South Africa, the world's second largest citrus exporter, has requested the World Trade Organization to establish panels to resolve disputes with the European Union regarding its citrus exports. Now, South Africa challenges EU measures aimed at combating citrus black spot and the false codeine moth, both of which damage the fruit. This is South Africa's first ever request under the WTO's dispute settlement system. Clive Ramathebile-Smith, Senior Executive Partner at Haircare Capital and Partners, shared his thoughts on the impact of phytosanitary measures for citrus imports on South Africa during an appearance on the Business Edge show.
Advances over the last, I would say, 25 years to meet high quality standard internationally, to make sure that the standard operating procedures from the local market right through to exporting have been regularly rechecked, reaffirmed, and to have some serious quality controls with regards to how we do export. In actual fact, if you look at just in industry as agriculture, some of the best products that you will find actually in the world come from this part of the world. So it is a very, very interesting change or a shift that now we find ourselves that South Africa has to now do an appeal to the WTO to try and regulate and reframe the work that were regulations that have recently just emerged from the European Union. It's sad, it's petty, and it's anti-competitive behavior that has reached us to this point.
Ahead of the Paris 2024 Olympics, Spain have handed Nigeria-born player Samuel Omorodion a call-up just before the Games. The Atletico Madrid forward was born in Melilla, Spain, to Nigerian parents. The coach listed the 22 players, which also includes the duo of Fermin Lopez and Alejandro Benet, who are representing Spain at the ongoing Euro 2024. Omorodion's performance with Getafe last season attracted several suitors, including English Premier League side Chelsea. The attacker is still eligible to represent Nigeria's Super Eagles in future fixtures. Jamaica's two-time Olympic women's 100-meter and 200-meter champion, Ellen Thompson-Herah, will not defend her titles at next month's Paris Games after failing to recover from an Achilles injury, the sprint star said on Wednesday. Now, Thompson-Herah, who completed the 100-200-meter gold medal double at both 2016 and pandemic-delayed 2020 Olympics, confirmed her decision after pulling out of this week's Jamaican trials. Thompson-Herah insisted, however, that she plans to continue her sprinting career despite her Olympic heartbreak. Although Thompson-Herah has never won an individual sprint gold at a world championship, she has dazzled in the Olympic arena. Her 100-meter personal best of 10.54 seconds set in Eugene, Oregon in August 2021 is the second fastest time in the history, second to only Florence Griffith's 1988 world record of 10.49 seconds. And that's all on the news. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Court has restrained Sokoto government from sacking 2 district heads. We're told you police have fired tear gas at tax hike protesters in Kenya. We also mentioned that Democratic Alliance has threatened to leave South Africa's government of national unity. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.